guys, my name is JessiMew, and welcome back to the Harmony Islands. In the last episode, our bearyena babies began their long journeys over to the northern ports, but now it seems as if we're on the very tail end of their travels. Beta and Howl are some of the last creatures that we're taking with us to make the long journey down this final shore until they get all the way over to where Willow and the gatekeeper Crabbit are waiting. The one problem we've had with these bearyena genetics is that they're very slow. They don't get any boosts in movement speed with their bearyena claws and whatnot. So in Howl's case, because he has the big body too, he can only move 2 tiles a turn, I believe. 2 tiles every single turn of energy, so he definitely has it a little bit harder than Beta does. She only has the normal body after all, so she can move a little bit faster than he can. She'll probably be up here helping out all of these creatures before he even makes his way to the sand. Unfortunately though, despite their mother's wishes, it doesn't seem like these creatures in the north are going to trust them too easily. They all seem very wary of the bearyena babies, mostly because of those familiar claws, those familiar bearyena genetics that they know so well as they loomed over their own nests far back in the past. So Rain in particular, because she has actually watched a battle for herself, would probably not be willing to trust these creatures who are coming in and trying to take over control. They're going to have to prove themselves before anyone wants to follow them. And instead I would imagine that Rara and Silaire are probably going to be looked toward for leadership. They have learned many things from the Old Kingdom after all. They've learned how to forage from their own father Kirkirvan. They've learned how to be strong and courageous from Koanako, the great warrior of her time. And they've even learned how to heal from Vantaku himself. And not only that, but it looks like the healing fruit also grew back overnight. So I'm taking that as a good sign, as they have all 3 of their gems. As they're finishing off their very final day of training, it seems as if they've learned a thing or two if the healing fruit grew back too. And I'm sure Rain is so proud of them right now. We'll have her go ahead and pick up some very last food to send them off with. We have some berries, and then we should have some acorns too. Aries is a little bit preoccupied at the moment, so he's not going to be picking them up. Instead, we'll have Rain knock down some more so she can pick up all of these on the next turn. We want Aries to make his way to the ports too. He's actually looking for a little bit of algae to pick up with Siren because they want to get Splash's favor. So I think they're probably going to end up making all of their nests out of the algae in the water. In fact, they can both put the water body inside their mutation menu, and we might as well do that for them right now. We'll place the water body in here, so their babies are a little bit more likely to be born with the water body instead, and then hopefully they can dive deep into the ocean waves and try to find us some fish and some shells if we're lucky. Willow and Cola in the meantime should be able to take care of this Crabbit once and for all, this very last Crabbit that's blocking their way to these ports. They're kind of like a little sisterhood of warriors maybe, because they're both so very strong, the protecting forces of the northern side of the island. They both look very different too. Willow is absolutely massive, of course, with her big body, but then her scrappy little friend is just as powerful as she is despite her tiny appearance. So let's have Cola land one good hit from behind, and that was actually all we needed. Okay, Cola, you could pick up that meat too for us then. And then we'll have Willow make her way a little bit deeper into the ports to try to clear out some of this grass. Not only that, but it looks like our artist Takir will have another one of these little rocks to draw onto in the meantime. While he's waiting for all of his friends to make their way to the ports, we can have him doodle away on the rocks, maybe even draw all of his companions so all of the creatures left behind won't forget them. Timid Dust will want to make his way to his sister too, but since we have a couple more days left until Howl even gets here, why don't we go ahead and let him pick up some of the berries that they left behind too? They want to make sure that they have plenty of food after all. Maybe Aries and Siren could even try to gather up some fish. It's going to be very hard for them because they don't have any claws or fishing tails, I believe. But there's always the possibility that some little shell could pop up in the meantime too. Maybe the Balance sisters will be nice and give us a nice bounty of food to take along with us on our journeys. For now, let's bring him up here so he can clear out a little bit more of this grass in the area, and then we could bring Siren around the other way to pick up the algae over here. And there are actually some fish in the water. It looks like Cola could probably grab up that fish swarm if she had a little bit more energy, so we'll have to have her do that on the next turn too. Now let's bring Beta up the shore. You've missed a little bit of the action, but I'm sure you can still at least get to meet these creatures. You do want to let them know that you're going to be coming with them, just like a Howl as well. He's going to have to make his way very, very slowly around Taurus. Taurus just wants to say goodbye to his brother, so we'll have to make sure that they can meet up before everybody leaves. And then our twins, of course, we can't forget about you either. Silaire and Rara will both say goodbye to the final member of the Old Kingdom on this island. Vantaku has a healing fruit to return to after all, so he'll make his very slow journey back as well. He actually has some short-sighted eyes too, so that's why he's so slow at moving. And for that matter, Spirit, oh no, it looks like history is repeating itself yet again and Howl has left you behind. She is trying so very hard to get in the good graces of this family. She might not be coming with us, but at the very least, she could let Howl know that she intends to carry on Grimm's memory on this island too. She really did idolize her and her family, so at least they won't be forgotten. Breeze, in the meantime, is also planning on staying on this island, despite his gorgeous appearance. I am going to miss him so much because he's so very pretty, but he's going to stay back here with Minnow as they try to find some fish. Let's see if we can toss him in the water. There we go. So we do actually have some fish in this area. Oh my goodness, they're all swarming you guys too. So I think you should be able to grab this swarm. There we go, we grabbed some of the fish, but the clown koi is a little bit more elusive. I think he should actually be able to catch it though, because it looks like he has that fishing tail. Oh, excellent. So he can definitely grab the clown koi as long as we're fast enough to catch up. Oh, Minnow, you are certainly not going to be able to catch this one. No, you're just going to scare it away, but at least you gave it a shot. I'm sure Breeze is very impressed. His brother Gobi has also been doing his part collecting all of these berries in the area, but I think he's going to want to try to find something a little bit more substantial. So let's bring him back down to where he was born actually, where he was born right by the waterside with Cricket and all of his siblings, and then we're going to have Mirage try to find her fish too. She was following our bearyena, our resident bearyena Growl, but he seems to have disappeared into the swamp somewhere. He's probably trying to find his own place on this island now that all of his family members have either passed away or gone on to different islands, but look at the bounty of fish that you have to catch for us. Oh my goodness. So we're not going to go hungry down on this portion of the island either. We have Brave and Zen way back here too, picking their poison berries. They're a little bit harder to spot because they're so far back from the rest of our tribe, but we don't want to forget about them. So Zen, is there anything that you can catch in the grass? He can't pick up the poison berries, but he might be able to get some bunnies for us, or some of those moles too. So maybe if you scoot over this way, you can surprise the bunny? No, it looks like it ran away, but it can't have gotten too far. It must still be in the grass around here, so hopefully with a little bit of planning, you can outwit this bunny before we leave. Let's just pick up the grass for now so that you can move a little bit more freely around this area, because that's going to be the main concern. We want to make sure you can dive in there and grab the bunny without any of that pesky grass getting in the way. Ripple should be on his very last turn too now, but he can rest easy knowing that his son is going to carry on all their swimming ways. He was a very, very good swimmer after all, so he should be very happy to know that he has taken on a mate of his own who certainly knows a thing or two about swimming. Siren has to be one of the fastest in the water at this moment. Now Tetra, she actually has a baby to give birth to thanks to a very unfortunate rogue male situation. That was actually how Silaire was able to prove herself, by sacrificing her own energy to make sure her tribe mates were safe. It was a little bit too late for Tetra, but as always, I'm sure she is going to treat her baby with tons and tons of love. She has lots of help too. She has Rain right here, and she'll have Taurus as well because he's going to be staying behind too. But let's bring Rara a little bit further down so she doesn't get too far away from her sister. If we leave her right here, she might be able to pick up some of these acorns as well, as we still wait for Howl to make his very slow way down the shore. Now I think it's just down to you, Taurus, so let's bring you up here so you'll be able to say goodbye to your brother. We'll sit him right by this rock and they can have a nice little talk overnight. Since this will be one of their last nights together, we'll make sure Taurus gives him all of that food he collected for the journey. Now let's scoot on over here so we can see what Tetra's very final baby is going to look like, and this is probably going to be the last baby baby we see born on this island too before we move. You look so much like your father, of course. Those wandering males, you have the crippled paw and you do have that lovely terp snout too. But he has the ram horns, so that's good to see. You know, I did mention last time that I feel like the bearyena babies have been stripped of all of Animeum's blessings. It's very, very peculiar, because of course Tetra is so very connected to the goddess of war with her double claws and her ram horns, so her other baby was a little bit more lucky. Cuckoo is his name too, that is absolutely adorable. So I'm sure he'll also be able to protect all of the creatures who stay with him. But let's sweep around the area really quickly just to make sure that there's no dangers that we need to face before we leave. I would hate to see a massive disaster here right before we're ready to go on to the next island. It looks like everything's okay over on this side though. We really have very few creatures taking care of the back portions now. Just Zen and Brave and of course Gobi and Mirage. Hopefully they're going to be okay. Hopefully they'll be able to band together and rebuild together too once we leave. We do need to get rid of the leeches before they become a situation though. So why don't you go ahead and scoop this up for us? And it looks like we have another one over here. Oh, Cola, just in time. You noticed that one just in time. They have had many issues with the leeches over on this side of the island after all, so they have to be very cautious of where they're stepping when they're so close to the water. But how close can Howl get to those ports now? He's still quite far away, and in fact, he's right up to where Beta ended her previous day. This is quite interesting. Of course, they know quite a bit about each other, but they've never actually met each other before. And Howl, you are so much bigger than Beta too. You would expect the bearyena babies to be these giant, imposing figures, but honestly, Beta looks very tiny compared to Howl. That being said, thanks to their mother's feud, I don't think they're going to want to talk to each other anytime soon. In fact, Beta might give him the cold shoulder at first and just scoot along ahead to where all of our other tribe mates are getting ready to leave. Let's bring Aries up here too. And it looks like we still have the fish in the area right next to all of that algae. I suppose we could have somebody try to dive in and grab it, but I'm a little bit concerned that it might be too deep. I'm not sure if this level is going to hurt our creatures after all, so maybe Aries would ask that Siren use this caution for now, and they'll try to find some algae on the new island later. We don't want her getting hurt. We want her to have many babies, so we have a good chance of getting that water body. This will be some of the final food that our creatures can grab though, so we'll have Dust pick up a handful of berries as he scoots down the shore right over to the ports. He has made his way here now, and then the sisters too. We'll have the twins go ahead and gather up one acorn each before they make their way down the shore, and then I believe we are literally just going to be waiting for Howl after this. Silaire and Rara should be able to make their way right over to these ports on the next turn, and then it's all up to you, Howl, though I think he should be able to make it there too, so on the very next day we are going to be making our way to our first challenge island. It feels like it has been absolutely forever since we started planning this journey, so it's nice to see the light at the end of the tunnel here. And in fact, now might be a good time to start cutting down all of these bushes too. We could have Spirit come over here and slash down the toxic berry bush. Oh no, she actually doesn't have a high enough attack skill for that. It looks like she can't even attempt it either, so it must be different with the poison berry bushes. Oh, Grim would be very disappointed to see that. We're going to have her try to find some other berries to slash down instead then, because she would want to impress her even though she's not even on the island anymore. If Grim is watching down somewhere from her ghostly throne, then Spirit wants to make sure she's impressing her. Rain, on the other hand, should have no problem tearing down these berry bushes for her. And then we could have Tetra make her way around to this one too, since nobody is really going to need this one anymore. She could even knock down some more acorns, oh my goodness, for Rain to collect in the future, and they'll stay very close to the baby too so he doesn't feel alone. Vantaku can finally settle himself down right next to all of his lovely healing fruits, so he can make sure that everybody is nice and healthy, all of the creatures who are left behind. And Gobi, you might as well make your way over to the berry bush on this side of the water too. You could come over here to even meet Mirage. I'm sure she wouldn't mind the company. She's been alone ever since her mother passed away after all, with only the fish to keep her company instead. All of these lovely fish swarms in the water, which are good for food but not so much for conversation. Maybe they'll even be able to rebuild this entire camp together. The Golden Hearts camp which was so thriving back in their youth. I'm sure Gobi and Mirage both remember those days very fondly, so maybe they'll even start a little family together once we leave this island. Now you guys back here, Zen, on some of your very final days, we want to make sure that you can find some food for your sister. So if you jump way back here toward the swamplands, can you pin that bunny? You are going to be chasing this bunny until you end up passing away, but there we go, you managed to trick it. So you can pick up that meat on the next turn and your sister can wash it down with some nice poison berries. Now I believe our fishing duo should be some of the last turns that we need to make here. So which way should we go for the fish? I think quite a few of them were swimming off in this direction, so let's have Breeze move over here. So far we're not having much luck though, are we? Maybe Minnow can scare some out? Yeah, there we go. Minnow seems to be very good at scaring the fish, but unfortunately he's not very good at catching them. So they're still trying their best. It seems like they're actually kind of corralling them toward the waterfall, so maybe they'll have to set up a camp down there instead. Minnow can scare them all right down the stream and Breeze can snag them up with his big claw. But otherwise, this should be our very final night on this island. The very final day that we pass before all of our creatures move on to their very first challenge. So once again, let's just make sure that we don't have any bearyena situations, no carnivores to try to take care of, no wandering males. So far, so good. Unfortunately, I don't even see Growl anymore, so I think he truly has moved on. He was getting a little bit old too, so I wonder if he was looking for a place to pass peacefully. But let's bring our mushroom princess over to her place on the ports, so that her sister can make her way down to the lower ones too, since she's a little bit slower than Rara, but certainly not as slow as Howl. This poor guy needs all the help he can get at this point, but he should be able to finally plant his feet right down on those ports, right next to Beta yet again, so they're going to be traveling very, very close by. But there we go, all of our creatures are ready for the next big migration. All 10 of our creatures are ready to go. So it's just down to making sure that we collect some of the very last food for the tribe. We have acorns absolutely everywhere to pick up. We have big berry bushes to swipe down. We'll bring Spirit over here to see if she can maybe get this one. No, you are having so much trouble with those. Oh, poor Spirit. Well, I'm sure she's going to be able to train enough to hopefully cut those down in the future. That is going to be one of her biggest missions, to live just as fearlessly as Grim did. Breeze might be a tiny bit stranded in the middle of the water right now, but they're doing a very good job of corralling all of the fish. Let's see if Minnow can scoop this one up. Oh, there you go. Some of that fishing skill must be rubbing off from Breeze. He must be very, very impressed, in fact. Let's scoot you both down here, so hopefully you'll have plenty of food to last you through your entire lives. We have all of the acorns that we can have Minnow pick up in the meantime, and then of course all of those fish too that we can chase down the stream. Now Zen has his bunny meat to pick up and bring back to his sister, and then we might as well have her go ahead and claw down these bushes too, because it'll give us a little bit of extra food. Maybe she could even get the second one as well. Oh my goodness, or another one of these bunnies. Okay, one or the other, so at least we know that you guys are also going to have plenty of food to last you through the rest of your lives too. We have Mirage and Gobi back here with tons and tons of fish and algae all over the place. They are not going to have any trouble feeding their babies. But I think that is finally it. We are finally ready to move on to our next great adventure on a brand new island. So why don't we go ahead and have Takir do the honors here. After he doodles this nice, lovely portrait for us for all of the creatures that we've left behind, he can go ahead and lead us on to the first challenge island in our journeys. So I'll see you guys as soon as we get there. Alright guys, we finally did it! We finally made it over to our next island, or chain of islands maybe. This place is very, very unique. We have tons of ocean water, so it's a very good thing that we have creatures who might be able to give us that water body, because it looks like it's going to be a little bit difficult for some of our creatures to cross over to the other islands. I would imagine Howl and the creatures with the bearyena genetics are going to have a little bit more trouble than they were expecting, because it's going to be hard for them to claw their way across all of those waves. But for now, I mean, the very first thing we're going to have to do is make sure we have food. So of course, that's where Silaire and Rara come in, because they had many, many days of training on how to forage for those berries. So we'll bring Rara, our lovely mushroom princess, right up here to hopefully pick up the berries on the next turn. and we'll have to make sure that her sister can unbury her too from all of that grass. We even have some little fishy friends coming up to say hi, and tons of algae as well, so Siren must be pretty happy right now. Her patience has paid off at least, and now hopefully she can make a little nest right along the shore to gather Splash's attention, of course, because they are desperately vying at this point for a little bit of help from their water god. Willow, of course, is more than willing to charge in after her little warrior friend. She wants to make sure that she's going to be okay. She knows she can hold her own with those big claws, but since they are traveling new territory right now, there is more strength in numbers. So Tekir, of course, will be sticking by her side too to make sure that they have tons and tons of food to eat. They might as well clear out the grass first just so they can make a safe camp for all of their babies, because pretty soon I'm sure some of these pairings are going to start settling down to start their own families as soon as possible so we can repopulate and really start to explore. Dust will do a great job at collecting though with his nimble fingers and his running legs, so let's bring him up here between these berry bushes, and then I suppose Beta could go this way to make sure all of her tribe mates are safe too over on this side of the island. Unfortunately, Howl is far too tired to make any moves himself. Clawing his way to those ports really did a number on him, but I'm sure after a good long rest overnight, he should be ready to try to prove himself in the eyes of his tribe mates. In fact, it looks like he could start by giving them some of their very first food, some of their very first fish on this island, and even a tiny little leech as well. That leech was trying to sneak up on him, but he managed to spy it first. And wait a second, you are not a part of our tribe. Not yet anyways, but thank goodness it looks like she's not actually one of the rogue males. She has that lovely derp snout, but she doesn't have any crippled paws. That is quite the change from all of the creatures we were seeing on our previous island. So maybe if the Old Kingdom did make it here too, they had a little bit more luck on these parts. It looks like they may have even adapted a little bit to their surroundings if those webbed hind legs are any indication. So maybe Dust, you could go ahead and invite her to the tribe. We have plenty of food to offer her after all. She has immunities A and G, so I'm sure we could probably find us somebody that she could breed with. It looks like Dust has different immunity genes. Not Tekir, but honestly, he kind of has his eyes on Cola anyways. They have spent many days together just waiting for all of the creatures to make it to those ports. She's quite curious of him too because of his artistic ways. So why don't we go ahead and let them start a family now? We want to make sure our babies are popping up on this island as these creatures get a little bit older. She does have some poor fertility though, so we are going to have to take a look at that, and in fact we might be able to play around with it in the mutation menu. I'm pretty sure we have access to at least the normal fertility, so why don't we go ahead and place that in one of her slots just so it's a little bit more likely that we can override the infertile trait entirely. Luckily, Tekir has very high fertility, so hopefully their babies will be able to get rid of that infertility plague once and for all. Tekir, on the other hand, has some troubles of his own with that crippled paw that he inherited from his mother, and even the blindness in his genetics, so we might want to try to get that out of the tribe as fast as possible. We'll put the running leg in one of his slots and then the normal eyes in the other, and hopefully their babies will be very healthy because of it. Now I guess for Cola we could also try to put the ram horns in here too. Since she doesn't have that lovely crown, maybe that would help boost her family's strength. But we'll have her use her turns to breed with him if possible, so she can still place down a nest too, excellent, and then pick up a little bit of this grass so you're not completely buried in the process. That way Tekir can use his energy to pick up some of these berries for his brand new little babies. It does look as if we have a bit of a drought on our hands too, so hopefully the Balance Sisters will be kind and give us a little bit of rain to help us survive. Since the Old Kingdom did follow the ways of all of the old gods and goddesses though, I do wonder if maybe Silaire and Rara would take this as a sign from Vankir. We don't often hear much from the god of the harvest after all, so maybe they want to try to appease him in some way, and maybe that's also why Dust has caught their attention. He doesn't have Vankir's cracker jaw, but he does have those nimble fingers, so maybe that would be just enough to catch their eye. Not only that, but the god of the harvest was known for taking on many mates, so it wouldn't be too surprising if Dust ended up having babies with maybe both Rana, our newest little pack mate, and Rara and Silaire as well. But we do want to make sure that you guys are starting your family too, because we desperately need that water body. So let's have Aries go ahead and breed with Siren. We'll have him use his energy so she can still find a good place to place down that nest. Maybe right here by all of this algae? That way it's right at the water side, but still not too far away from the rest of their tribe mates, so they should be very, very safe. Though just in case, we'll have Aries make his way around his mate to pick up some of this grass and make sure that nothing is sneaking its way out of the darkness. We want to be very, very careful with our potential water babies. Now, if Silaire could perhaps clear out the area around this nest, then this might be a very good spot for them to settle down after all. Look at all of the food they have at their disposal. We can pick up all of this grass, all of the berries off of the bushes, and then hopefully on the next turn we can have somebody settle down in that nest to start Van Kier's harvesting line. Clearly it must have been a sign from him after all if we have so many berry bushes to pick from, but Beta looks so lost out here on her own. She probably wasn't expecting it to be so very hard to just make friends. I mean, nobody's willing to trust her just yet, especially with so many babies about to be born. They want to make sure that she's a reliable creature first before they let her anywhere near their families, along with Howl too. Even though he's catching all of that food, they still have a good reason to be wary. But let's cross our fingers for a baby with the water body in the nest. Hopefully we can start this island off with some good luck. Well, I mean, they're absolutely adorable either way. Look at this little beauty. You almost remind me of a little fox, actually. If she had the markings, she would probably look just like an adorable little blue-eyed fox. She has the lovely ram horns too, so a little connection to anime maybe. She will definitely make a very strong warrior. I think we might name her Vixen after the female fox, since she does look so much like a little fox to me. And then let's see if this baby maybe has the water body. It looks like she has the nimble fingers and her mother's webbed paw, but unfortunately she only carried the water body in her inactive traits. I mean, it's something at least. We are getting there. If she is at least carrying it with her, then maybe she could pass it on to her other babies. But oh my goodness, those eyes! Those eyes are terrible. Wait a second. It looks like we might need to emplace the normal eyes in both of their mutation menus as well. Let's go ahead and do that right away so we don't forget, and hopefully their babies will be able to see a little bit more easily. But she's adorable, isn't she? She almost reminds me of Mercy from the previous island, actually, and I believe Mercy was actually Siren's mother, so that's adorable that those markings kind of skipped a generation and ended up on her baby instead. Since she's not quite the water baby that we're looking for, I think we'll go along with her father's naming theme and name her Virgo. I do think that we'll probably change their baby's gems over to that lovely blue color though, as soon as they grow some gems that we can change. That way we can signify that this is our water-loving line. And hopefully a little bit more love and attention from Splash means that we'll be able to finally get that water body after all. Somebody who can dive into all of this deep water, because like I said, it's going to be a little bit tricky for us to cross, especially if we have some slow creatures in our future. But Howl finally has enough energy to make his way away from those ports, so let's bring him up this way so he'll have a better chance to show his stuff to the rest of the tribe. Beta must think he's trying to steal her thunder right now. They've hardly spoken to each other, but since their mothers trained them to be so suspicious of one another, every action they make is met with this automatic resistance. That being said, it's very clear that if the two could put aside their mother's feud, they would be much stronger if they could work together. If they could explore this island by each other's side, putting their bearyena genetics to good use, then I'm sure it would benefit them much more in the long run, and their family too, and all of their tribe mates. So hopefully they can learn to put their differences aside someday. But for now, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Bye guys!